Микрофон. У вас микрофон звонит, а у микрофон сидит. Да? Ой, слава. Это Норвегиш. Это
Я переключил следует, Светлана. Нам надо на камере записать.
Это точно? Это как его пригласили?
Это Жанара, позовите всех членов.
Да. Так, ну что, давайте собирайте всех, начинаем. Саламатсыздар ма, құрметті әріптестер. Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Good afternoon, dear colleagues and guests. Very nice to see all of you. First of all, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation to participate in the meeting. Today we have a council meeting for the dissertation defense. As you know, the entire defense session must be recorded, and therefore, if our technical staff is ready, please start recording. In accordance with the current regulation, we have to ascertain whether there is a quorum or not. Let's start with the permanent members of the Dissertation Council. Please show the list of permanent members on the screen. In accordance with the order of the Committee for Quality Assurance in Education and Science dated July 11, 2022, and decision of the Academic Council of Narcos University dated August 27, 2022, was appointed the following permanent composition of the Dissertation Council for the defense of doctoral dissertation, PhD, for educational program, accounting, audit and taxation, finance, and business administration. First, namely, Sviatov Serika Manjolovic, chairman of the Dissertation Council, doctor of economics, professor, present Narcos University, it's me. To the right of me, Arstambaieva Saulia Sabirovna, deputy chairman of the Dissertation Council, doctor of economics, professor, director of the Scientific and Education Department, doctoral studies, also present Narcos University. To the left of me, Aliana Galieva, Scientific Secretary of the Dissertation Council, candidate of Economic Sciences, PhD, Associated Professor of Accounting and Audit, Narcos University. Here, Aliyev Murat Takparovich, Doctor of Economics, Academician of the International Economic Academy of Eurasia, Professor of the Yesil University, Astana. Nurgadeshir Asılbek, he participates online, PhD, Associate Professor of the Department of the Economic and International Business, Karaganda State University. Currently, they has a position of a Director of Master Programs at the Edinburgh Business School, Heriot-Watt University, United Kingdom. Lambekova Igerin, PhD, Head of Accounting and Audit Department, Karaganda State University, Karaganda, Kazakhstan. Thus, at the meeting presents 6 out of 6 permanent members. That means 100% of attendance. On the meeting of Dissertation Council on April 28, we appointed the temporary composition of the Council for the defense of Молдір Мұқан dissertation in the specialty 69050 finance. Could you please show the list of temporary members on the screen? According to the rules, we need here full attendance, 100%. So there are 6 members, namely Ниязбекова Шахизада Утиевна, candidate of economic science, associate professor of the Department of Banking and Monetary Regulation, Financial University under the government of the Russian Federation, Moscow, Russia. Шахиза Утиевна, are you with us? Okay, thank you. Nice to see you. Степанникова Карпенко Оксана Алексеевна, candidate of economic sciences, associate professor of the Department of Finance and Credit, People's Friendship University of Russia, Moscow, Russia, well known by the name Rudel. Oksana Alexeyevna is here online.
Good morning, I'm here.
Narbayev Timur Saparbayevich, PhD professor, Kazakh British Technical University, Almaty, Kazakhstan. He has a little problem with the internet connection, and in 5 minutes will be online. Muhammad Muhsin, PhD, Associate Professor, School of Finance and Economics, Jiangsu University, China. Also is Mr. Mohammed Muhsin is here. Kurmanalina Anar Kayratovna, candidate of economic science, professor of the Department of Finance, Karaganda State University, Karaganda, Kazakhstan, and here, offline. Kalkabayeva Gauhar Maratovna, candidate of economic sciences, associate professor, senior research fellow, Research Institute for Economics and Legal Research, Karaganda University of Kaspotrebsoyuz, Karaganda, Kazakhstan. It's a correct translation. Kaspotrebsoyuz or Kazakh Consumer Union. Kaspotrebsoyuz. Thus, there are six people present at the meeting from the temporary members of our council. Is 100% of attendance. We have necessary quorum to proceed with the session. And let's start. The agenda for today's meeting as follows. Defense of the doctoral dissertation thesis by Молдір Мұқан on the topic volatility of the financial market in the context of dynamic oil prices in the specialty finance. The dissertation work was carried out on the educational program finance of the Narcos University. Scientific consultants Isabayev, supervisors Murat Maratovich, Dr. PhD, Professor Narcos University, Almaty, Kazakhstan. Murat Maratovich is here. Foreign supervisor Mehmet Orhan, PhD, doctor PhD, Valdosta State University, Georgia, United States of America. Also online. Official reviewers, Fayzulayev Alimjan Perulaevich, Doctor PhD from Kemet University, Kazakhstan. Almaty, Alimjan Perulaevich is here. He participates offline. Doshan Regul Dukanbay Kaze, Doctor PhD from Kazakh National University, named after Al-Farabi, Almaty, Kazakhstan, also participate here offline. The dissertation defense, as you understand, will be held in the mixed format. Some members offline and some online. Let's turn to the next step. Let me announce the information about the candidate and also inform you about the compliance submitted documents with regulatory requirements. All these documents were prepared by the academic secretary of our dissertation council, Associated Professor Aliya Nurgalina. Мұқан Молдір Мұқан was born in 1994. In 2015, she graduated with honors from New Economic University named after Turara School with a degree in economics. Under the double degree program in 2015, she graduated from Oxford Brookes, Budapest, specialty business administration. While studying for bachelor degree, she studied on academic mobility at the University of Ferrara, Italy. In 2016, with a scholarship from Ernst Mach, she studied at the university in Austria. In 2017, she graduated with honors from master programs at Narcos University with a master degree in economics, majoring in finance. From 2017 to 2020, she studied at the PhD doctoral program of Narcos University, also in finance. From January 2020 until present, she has been working as a senior lecturer in the educational program finance at Narcos University. The dissertation work on the topic volatility of the financial market in the context of dynamic prices was completed as the educational program finance. The topic of the dissertation work was approved at a meeting of the Academic Council of Narcos University, the minutes on October 31, 2017, and reapproved the Academic Council of Narcos University, dated October 26, 2021. The dissertation book is recommended for defense on the basis of decision at the extended meeting of the research committee with the participation of the teaching staff of the educational program finance and educational program accounting and audit, as well as the representative of the joint stock company Central Securities, Ashimova, Vice President for Business Development, according to the minutes number 17, March 20th, 2023. There were published scientific publications on the topic of the dissertation, including the international peer-reviewed journal Singapore Economic Review. At the time of publication in 2021, the percentile indicator in the category finance is 47. Also in 3 journals from the list of recommended by the Committee for Quality Assurance in Science and Higher Education of the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of the Republic of Kazakhstan. As I mentioned before, domestic scientific supervisor, consultant, Исабаев Мурат Маратович, Dr. PhD professor at Nahos University, and foreign supervisor, scientific consultant, Mehmet Orkan, Dr. PhD professor from Valdosta State University, Georgia, United States. All the necessary documents are submitted to the dissertation council in a timely manner and posted on the university website. If there are any questions regarding the candidate submitted documents, please feel free to ask any questions. If there are no questions, the floor is given to PhD candidate for presentation. Moldir, you know the time limit is 50 minutes. Please, Moldir, you can start.
F5. Good afternoon, dear members of the Dissertation Council, reviewers, and other participants. It's my honor to present you my dissertation thesis, which is devoted to the volatility of the financial market in terms of oil price dynamics. So first of all, before starting my research idea, I would like to talk about the motivation of my research. So, as all of us know, oil is considered as a main lever in any economic growth. Basically, it doesn't depend whether a country is oil exporting or oil importing. It has direct or indirect influence on economic growth overall. Based on this graphical research structure of exports in Kazakhstan by 2020, we can see that 66% of exported products were mineral one. Here we can refer oil as well. So this is the suggestions that in Kazakhstan we have symptoms of Dutch disease and Ricardian curse. The Dutch disease is the appreciation of a currency for a very short time, and the Ricardian curse, it is fully when the consumers fully anticipate their future shares. So our suggestion in this research, we try to minimize the impact of oil price volatility on the financial impact. So here we can see that the subject of our research is the relations of the financial market participants that arise during the oil price dynamics. The object of our research are based on the theoretical approach. There are two main theoretical approaches, bank-based approach and market-based approach. So bank-based approach is usually dominates when the banking industry is more developed, while the market approach is usually based when the stock markets are mostly developed to the economic growth. Based on these very approaches, we settled the objects of our research. So we try to identify the impact of elements of the financial market. However, the financial market, not in general, but separately. So we have separate analysis of the banking industry and of the stock market of Kazakhstan. We have two very hypotheses. So the first hypothesis is that the oil price volatility affects the behavior of the stock index. And the hypothesis number two is that the banking sector stability is predetermined by the oil price volatility. Based on this very hypothesis and motivation of the research, we have settled the aim of the study is to develop recommendations that contribute to the maintenance of the stability in order to minimize the symptoms of Dutch disease and the Ricardian curse. Based on the goal of our research, we settled the following objectives. So the first very objective is to review theoretical approaches in order to have a proxy variable of non-performing indicator, non-performing loans. Secondly, we need to form approaches for the development of financial market participants by identifying the degree of influence from oil price volatility. Thirdly, we need to propose a modernized methodology in order to identify the impact of oil price volatility on the stock market, and as well as propose the measures to minimize the systemic risks. Then we need to develop conditions to ensure the sustainability of the banking sector in terms of oil price dynamics. And finally, we are going to develop the recommendations in order to minimize the impact of oil price dynamics on the state and the development of the financial market. We have several basic provisions for the defense. The first one is that non-performing loan as an indicator, we use it as a stability of the banking sector. Basically, there were already kind of a lot of theoretical literature which also supports the same thing, that NPL is an indicator of stability. However, we need it to do for our further research development, because after all, we are going to analyze the impact of oil price volatility on the banking sector stability. And this very banking sector stability, we are going to measure as a non-performing loan. That's why we need to clarify the definition of the NPL. We made a really huge literature review, domestic and foreign authors as well. And here we can see that basically the very research that we are based on is a Messe and Juni, which were written in 2013. There are two main factors which are which have impact on NPL. So bank specific, here we can refer return on assets, return on equity, bank size, bank loans, total volume of the loans, and etc. Secondly, we can refer macroeconomic factors or external one. Here we can refer unemployment, GDP, interest rate, and etc. So basically, these very macroeconomic factors as a bank specific, they can have positive or negative impact on non-performing loans. The second very provision is to evaluate the instability of oil price volatility and how it affects on the Kazakhstani stock market and the banking industry. So we constructed two econometric models in order to analyze this very impact. And the first one is the vector autoregression, which is based on the Killian's research in 2009. Why we were really interested in a stock market behavior? You can see it graphically. Here you can see that during the period from 2009 till 2015, we have negative correlation between stock index and oil price. This is considered as anomalous behavior for oil exporting country as Kazakhstan. Also, as we use Killian's model, we have the data from August 2000 till August 2017. Overall, we have 205 observations. And the main differentiation from the Killian's model is that we refer real exchange rate. Mostly in this model, we refer systematic risks. So this is oil supply shock, aggregate demand shock, oil price, and also real exchange rate. We also, based on Ben Bernanke's hypothesis, who wrote also his research in 2019, and he proposed that whether you will look through creditworthiness of the country and the oil market, oil price impact on it. Data was derived from Bloomberg, CACE, and the National Bank. So the continuation of the second provision is that we evaluate the instability of oil price on the banking sector. As I told before, we mostly refer on the research of Messe and Juni in 2013, and they constructed the linear regression. We also construct the linear regression, and we use three very models. It is pooled ordinary square, fixed effect, and random effect. Here you can see that we mostly introduce bank-specific factors, where we can refer return on assets, compliance 1, compliance 2, compliance 3, loan size, capital adequacy ratio as well. Mostly we here introduce systematic factor. It is oil price, yeah, it's basic indicator, we can say. And oil, also we have oil squared. Why do we need oil squared? In order to identify whether there is non-linear relation between our variables. Moreover, we need to check if there is U-shaped relation or Kuznets curve. So data derived from National Bank, second-tier banks, and the data was derived from 28 banks from 2009 to 2019. Here on the table, you can see that the expected features of our variables, and you can see, for example, return on assets variable should be negative, should have negative impact on non-performing loans. The third basic provision It is a continuation of the second one. It is our upgraded Killian's methodology. So here you can see that we have the percentage impact of supply and demand shocks on commodity. Here you can see that on the horizon from 1 till 3 months, we have oil price in real terms is not so significant, and we can say even insignificant. However, when horizon starts from the 15 months and over 15 months, it has 60.93% of volatility. Also here we can see that aggregate demand also has an impact on 15 months. Here we can see that it plays a huge role for 12.33%. Exchange rate has a slightly the same behavior as oil price volatility and shows 33.28%. So overall, according to these very results, we can say that oil price volatility plays a significant role on the stock market, however, only in the long term. In short term, it's not significant. Also, we made a decomposition of the CACE index of different kind of variables. And here you can see that the most volatile is the accumulation effect of the real oil price on the CACE index. The fourth basic provision of our defense, it is the way of oil price affects the volume of non-performing loans. Here, as I told before, we constructed 3 different models. It is a pooled ordinary square, fixed effect, and random effect. All of these 3 models showed us that oil price and oil price square are significant throughout all of our research, which is really interesting for us. This means that if, for example, the oil price will increase for 1%, the volume of non-performing loans will increase mostly for 3% according to the results of pooled ordinary square. It shows kind of elasticity effect. Also, we can see that compliance 2 has a significant level as well. And the 5th basic provision, it is the Ricardian curse. So we here prove that yes, there is a Ricardian curse. We made kind of short information from the previous table where we had a really interesting effect that oil price have positive effect on non-performing loans, on the volume of non-performing loans. And this very effect proves that yes, in our country, we have Ricardian curse effect. So it means that higher oil price leads to excess revenue growth, leading to overconsumption, excess borrowing, and afterwards leading to more volume of non-performing loans. So this is very anomalous behavior, showing anomalous behavior in oil exporting country as Kazakhstan. The 6th basic provision, it's our own recommendations based on our research results. So the first basic provision, or the first recommendation, sorry, it is that our vector autoregression showed that at a certain time horizon, the influence of oil prices increases or fades, so that the state should take necessary measures in a timely manner. So, for example, if oil price increases, it should, or decreases, it should take timely manner up to 15 months. Secondly, macroprudential policy to minimize systemic risks. Yes, we already have macroprudential policy. However, they don't pay attention to the oil price volatility. With the help of our model, we can refer to the macroprudential policy in order to prevent sources from external risk as oil price. So the reduction of potential impact and threat resilience will be the main achievement of this goal. Also, we suggest the government to have counter-cyclical capital buffers in order to make kind of reserve capital. And finally, the results of the dissertation can be really useful in building a base, optimistic and pessimistic scenario for a state, for a government, for a stock market, and for its banking sector. Finally, our 2 hypotheses were proved, but really in an interesting manner. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. The presentation is over. Now it's Q&A, question and answer. Who wants to be first? Please ask. the question to the candidate. Please. Please.
I have two questions. In your presentation,
Excuse me.
you mentioned
Sorry. This Alkabayeva Gauhar Muratovna from Karaganda, University of Kazakhstan. Please. Sorry for interruption.
So, firstly, in your presentation, you mentioned banking and market approaches in the context of Kazakhstan. Could you tell us, please, in details, what approach is more dominant in this financial system of our country? And second question, what specific measures and policies can be adopted by the state and financial market participants to reduce the indirect influence of oil price fluctuations on the stock market? Thank you.
Dr. P. Lambekov from Karaganda City University. Please.
Thank you for your presentation, dear Moldір. In your slide 9, you have several indicators of compliance. Would you explain what do they determine and why did you use them? In your slide 9, you have several indicators of compliance. Question: would you explain what do they determine and why did you use them? Thank you.
Any questions? You can ask not only in English, please, Kazakh language and Russian. Please.
Can I ask? So thank you first for your presentation, but I've got a question. I have many questions, but I'll ask the most important ones. You did fixed effect and random effects. And the interesting part I'm wondering why you didn't show the R square and the F test for the model. This is the first question. And the second question, have you performed the test for autocorrelation, heteroscedasticity, and the multicollinearity test before running the regression analysis? So these are the two questions that I have got in my mind.
Our colleagues online, do you have a question?
May I ask two questions? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, it's me. Yes, I would like to ask two questions because your presentation was very interesting for me. It is very interesting research, and I have two questions to you. The first question is about the model which you chose for your research. Why did you choose the pool ordinary least square model in your research? And the second question is about the method of analysis. Which method of analysis do you consider is more productive to you? Which of them may confirm or reject your hypothesis? Thank you very much.
Приветствую вас, коллеги. Вопрос от Ниязбековой Шакизады. Можно, да? Молдір Мұқан, как вы можете объяснить тот факт, что независимо от того, что цена на нефть волатильна, цена на топливо все равно продолжает расти? Ахмед.
Вопросы? Any questions? Please.
Siz баяндамаңызда айттыңыз, өзіңіздің қысқаша зерттеу жұмысыңыздың практикалық маңыздылығына арнап көрсеттіңіз. Рахмет.
Анар Курманалина from Karaganda State University. Gördünüz mü? Yazmalılar. Алия Нургалиева, scientific secretary of dissertation class.
У меня такой вопрос. Что из себя представляет волатильность? Что она показывает? И какие существуют модели оценки волатильности? Записали, да? Повторить? Что такое, что из себя представляет волатильность и что она показывает? И какие существуют модели оценки волатильности? Все, у меня делается.
По идее, здесь два вопроса.
Вопрос задавайте.
Да, только здесь два вопроса. Что такое волатильность и какие модели используются для оценки уровня волатильности? Сейчас вопрос.
Теория жұмысыңыздағы, жұмысыңыздағы теориялық жаңашылдығының негізі недегі?
В своем докладе вы отмечали, что данный показатель, который вы в основу своего исследования ставите, является показателем финансовой устойчивости банковского сектора. Отсюда вопрос: в отечественной практике Казахстана данный показатель как давно используется в отечественной практике и научной среде, а также в своих рекомендациях по совершенствованию данного показателя, на чем вы основаны? Спасибо.
Профессор Основная.
Такой вопрос. Какие конкретные меры можно предпринять, чтобы снизить влияние волатильности цен на нефть, влияние волатильности цен на нефть на банковский сектор? Какие меры нужны?
There are more than 20 questions. Я не читал. Any questions? Yes. А что было? Нет, 12, 10 человек. Половина по 2 вопроса. Молдір, I would like to add a couple of questions. From your dissertation and presentation, you mentioned about 2 phenomena. One is Dutch disease, and second one, Ricardian curse. About the Dutch disease, in dissertation, you very carefully mentioned like some symptoms of Dutch disease we can see in Kazakhstan. Is there some symptoms or the Dutch disease itself in Kazakhstan? And first question is the interconnectedness with Ricardian curse and Dutch disease. My first question. And second, your observation, your study covered the space of time till 2019. Why it's 2019? Because in last 2 or 3 years, we face the dramatic changes in the different fields of economics, geopolitics, and so on. If you provide the research right now, what pattern needs to be taken for analysis today? What key factors? Did you understand? Which?
Yes, could you pay attention more?
Yes. Are there any other questions? I think maybe it's enough. It's more than 20 questions. Moldir, you can answer in any order you like. Are you ready to answer? Maybe sometime. Sometime you need.
Yes.
Think about it sometime. Okay. Okay. In this case, maybe we give the floor to the supervisors to share with your opinions with the number of participations. Please. Murat Maratович, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you.
The domestic supervisor, Professor Diссовет, Murat Maratович.
First of all, thank you very much for finding time and sharing your time with us together. It's a great honor for me to see all of you here. So it's really a long journey for Moldір. It took her 6 years to come here until this point, because she has worked a lot on this long journey, including the pandemic period and so on, which really has its own impact on her dissertation as well. So the topic of her dissertation is interesting over the years, since it will never end, because Kazakhstan, as you know, is a resource-rich developing country. And from the pie chart, you can see even that the greater lion's share of the country GDP comes from natural resources, particularly crude oil and natural gas. And it's simultaneously crude oil and natural gas are our main commodities, which has impact on all sectors of the macroeconomy of Kazakhstan. And since her field is finance, she considered only one part, the impact of the investment in natural resources, particularly oil price change, volatile, etc., on the financial sectors. And in one of the presentations, she mentioned about two hypotheses in her dissertation. The first one is that how oil price has impact on the Kazakh stock index in Kazakhstan. In order to answer this question, she has collected monthly time series data. And before running time series data, of course, she has made some kind of diagnostic tests starting from unit roots in order to test for the stationary data, etc. And then she implemented a well-known VAR model to answer the question of her hypothesis in that question. And the outcome of this, this is the outcome of her second chapter of her dissertation, which has been published in peer-reviewed scientific journals, Singapore Economic Review. But before that, it has, of course, has been presented several times in many scientific conferences, both domestic and international. And the second broad hypothesis of her dissertation is the relation of an impact of oil price on stability of banking sector, which she measures stability of banking sector by non-performance laws, referring to the existing literature in finance area and connecting to it. And in order to answer this question, she has collected panel data of 28 banks for over 11 years, and she has implemented as a method of estimation. She has used full ordinary squares, fixed effect, random effect, etc. And from here, this is her, in fact, third chapter of her dissertation. And the good thing is that she has some knowledge in this chapter. I believe that the outcome of her two chapters have its own implication to be from policy perspective. And I personally like the outcome of her third chapter because after the defense, so I want her to update the data for this chapter and to reconsider this chapter. And I believe that if she works at some time after defense again, the third chapter also has its potential to be published in scientific peer-reviewed journals. So in sum, I believe that the work that has been done so far, each of the chapters can be as profit as articles themselves, and I believe that she deserves the award of the PhD. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Muxin?
Hello.
Yes. You are foreign supervisor of this dissertation. Would you like to add something?
Indeed. Dr. Murat has explained it very well, but there might be a few things that I should be adding. But first, I would like to make sure that you can all hear me very well.
Yes, we can hear.
I would like to extend my greetings from United States, where it's about 4 o'clock, very early in the morning, but it's worth to listen to this thesis. It's really very important. Some of the professors have mentioned that it is very interesting. It is very interesting, and at the same time, it's very useful for the Kazakhstan economy. I mean, both banking sector and the financial sector and the real economy itself. So in that regard, this thesis is extremely important. The findings are also important. The thing is, I mean, if you ask this question to an ordinary person in finance sector or banking sector, or even a PhD student in one of the universities, so that the impact of the oil prices in the international markets has a significant impact over the stock exchange index. I mean, that's very well known. And in turn, it has the impact over the banking sector. We are very sure about those things. But the other thing, the main contribution of the thesis is that there are some technical analysis embedded in the thesis in this research, which is shedding more light on the nature of this relationship. I mean, whether this thing is a short-run relationship or a long-run relationship, and what exactly is the impact of this thing, I mean, those coefficients there. In that regard, the vector autoregression model, I mean, this VAR model is the correct choice, because we know that those variables are interacting continuously among themselves, so that we cannot fix one of those variables as the target variable, most probably the stock exchange index, and say that the others are independent and they're having the impact on this variable. But all those variables are interacting continuously, so that the chosen model is appropriate for the purpose. And the consequences of the thesis, which are very well summarized by the candidate, I mean, Moldір Мұқан, and also comment on by Professor Murat, are very useful, and especially for the policies of the central bank. These are some very important policy implications to be followed. So these are the things that I would like to add, and these are my comments.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Мұқан. Moldir, it is your turn now. Are you ready now?
You can combine.
To remind you, you can answer in any order you like. If the answer was in another language, you ask another language, your answer should be in this language, in Kazakh or Russian.
Okay.
If someone needs to the translation, please don't hesitate to ask. You can go with the translation into English. Okay?
Okay.
Please.
First question.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. First question to Professor Kalkabayeva. You asked about the banking and market approaches that I had in my presentation, in my research. So basically, yes, banking approach is mostly occurs when the banking industry is more developed rather than market industry. Market-based approach is when the stock market is more developed. It usually meets in the countries like USA, United States, or America. In Kazakhstan, the more dominant is the banking sector, because we have a stable banking system of more than 20 banks successfully operate. In terms of Kazakhstan, we have two-tier banking system. So yes, we have banking system. However, we can say that market is still developing market approach. So I think that market approach will be also applicable in next several years. The second question you asked about the specific measures and policies that can be adopted to reduce indirect influence on the stock market. So first of all, I would like to talk about the diversification. Yes, usually according to the strategy and etc., we have diversification, but according to the statistical data, as you saw in my presentation research, you saw that in 2020 we had 66% of export of mineral resources. So the diversification is really low. Moreover, when we talk about the stock market, we know that the stock index that shows the stock market's behavior usually lies on several companies only. So it doesn't show the overall situation in the stock market. So I think that in order to reduce the indirect influence of oil price in the stock market, also this like government should maybe have some kind of reserve funds in order to be able to come up during instability times. So next question, Professor Lambekova. Thank you for your question. You talked about the slide number 9 about the compliance. We have compliance 1, compliance 2, and compliance 3. I didn't explain it in presentation. However, as we know, our banking industry is settled on the Basel requirements. We have Basel 3 requirement, and there are some pillars. So we have the first pillar, it's kind of minimal requirements, to have minimal requirements in the banking sector. The second pillar is to have the risk management, the good risk management, to have audit, temporary audit in terms of banking sector. And the third pillar is the disclosure of information. So based on these 3 pillars, we named its kind of compliance of the bank to these pillars in terms of Basel agreement. Okay. Next question was to from Professor Fayzulayev. Dr. Fayzulayev, thank you for your question. We thought a lot about that with my supervisor concerning the multicollinearity, autocorrelation, and etc. Yes, in our model, I think that you saw some kind of, let's say, factors that are correlated with each other, like return on assets, capital adequacy ratio, compliance, and etc. Yes, it's really, it allows me to think a lot about that. And I think that in future research, I will make this very analysis. However, concerning the R-squared, we have it in our research, but we deleted it from the presentation because we already have such science as a stars, and we thought that R-squared, it's usually showed by this kind of significance. Okay. So next question is from Stepanikova Oksana. Thank you so much. The first question was about the pooled ordinary least square. Why did I choose that? I chose pooled ordinary least square because this is kind of simple linear regression, which allows us to in turn both systematical and non-systematical factors to analyze. Moreover, we analyze the non-linear relations in U-shaped curve, which was not proved. So that's why we choose the poles, and which was the more productive for me for my research. If we talk about the vector autoregression, pooled ordinary least square, fixed effect, and random effect, I can say that all of these models were productive. Because vector autoregression showed a really great results that we have a time horizon, and this can be proved by the statistical data that we have nowadays. If we talk about the poles FE and RE, we chose these 3 models in order to compare the results, and all of the results throughout all of this model gave the same things. So that's why I think that all of them were really productive. The next question, профессор Ниязбекова Шахизада Утиулиевна. Как вы можете объяснить тот факт, что цена на топливо продолжает расти вне зависимости, да, от того, что является волатильной цена или нет? Ну, мы можем это объяснить тем, что Казахстан является не только он является экспортером именно сырой нефти. На данный момент у нас оперируют 3 завода по переработке нефтересурсов, но все равно в какой-то доле Казахстан является также нетто-импортером нефтепродуктов. Более того, цену на топливо регулируется именно со стороны спроса. Да, то есть если спрос растет, соответственно, цена она тоже будет расти. Ну и более того, можно это объяснить тем, что Казахстан является как транзитным регионом, то есть через нас проезжает множество фур, машин и так далее, то они могут как бы, идет утечка, так скажем, да, топливных ресурсов, что также влияет на стоимость. Келесі сұрақ профессор Курманалина. Мен қазақша тырысам жауабымды беруге. Менің практикалық маңыздылығы ол ең бірінші мұнай құбылмалдығының қаржы нарығына әсерін төмендетуге. Сол менің практикалық маңыздылығым. Тағы бір сұрақ болды қазақша. қазақша айта беремін. Теоретикалық жаңалығы, я. Теоретикалық жаңалығы ол NPL факторы банк секторының тұрақтылығын көрсетілуге. Сол менің теоретикалық жаңалығым. Так. Следующий вопрос профессор Нургалиева Алежден. Волатильность, что она себя представляет и какие существуют модели оценки волатильности. Волатильность – это постоянная изменчивость, внутренняя изменчивость, можно так сказать. Да? Мы именно рассматриваем в нашем исследовании волатильность нефтяных цен. И в нашем исследовании мы применяем логарифмы, логарифмические показатели, именно чтобы посмотреть вот эти вот процентаж изменения, который происходит с течением времени. Однако существуют определенные модели эконометрические, которые могут измерить эту волатильность. Это модели Гарч, Арч, ну, такие, те, что я знаю, да. Арч, она базируется на исторических данных, Гарч, она более расширенно базируется на исторических данных, а также базируется на исторической волатильности. Ну и простая дисперсия тоже может определить волатильность в рамках риска, да? То есть стандартное отклонение, дисперсию тоже можно рассчитать для данной оценки. Так, следующий вопрос. Профессор Алиев Мурат Капарович про показатель невозвратных кредитов, который влияет на финансовую устойчивость, как показатель финансовой устойчивости банковского сектора. Данный показатель, он применяется давно в отечественной, как в отечественной, так и в зарубежной литературе, однако мы его взяли именно как показатель прокси, для последующего построения эконометрической модели. То есть для того, чтобы выявить влияние волатильности цен на нефть на устойчивость банковского сектора, вот эту устойчивость мы определили как показатель невозвратных кредитов. То есть чем выше показатель НПЛ, тем, соответственно, ниже устойчивость. Но, однако, наши результаты показали совсем иной эффект. То есть наши результаты показали, что чем выше цена на нефть, да, а так как мы нефтеэкспортирующая страна, и, соответственно, невозвратные кредиты должны, наоборот, падать, потому что хорошие условия, да, а у нас, наоборот, объем невозвратных кредитов растет, потому что происходит overconsumption, то есть люди начинают тратить еще не заработанные деньги в будущем. Вот это и подтверждается рикардианским проклятием. Ну и по совершенствованию данного показателя, на чем я основывалась, мы основывались на литературном обзоре. Множество литератур показывают, что есть специфические для банка показатели, да, которые влияют на данный показатель. Это то же самое портфель невозвратных кредитов, ликвидность банка и так далее. И макроэкономические – это безработица, высокопроцентная ставка. То есть если в совокупности взять эти факторы, то мы также можем уточнить данный показатель и сказать, что да, он может быть применен как показатель банковской устойчивости. Дальше. Вопрос профессор Арстамбаева Сауле Сабыровна. Вопрос про конкретные меры, которые могут снизить влияние волатильности цен на нефть на банковский сектор. Конкретные меры можно отнести, это макропруденциальные нормы, они у нас уже есть в банковском секторе, но мы предлагаем именно внести цену на нефть как один из систематических факторов. То есть так как мы уже имеем определенные результаты нашего исследования, да, нашей эконометрической модели, то мы можем, базируясь на них, сделать вывод о том, что можно, например, ужесточить капитальную адекватность банковского сектора, а именно резервные, да, какие-то требования к банкам. Также ужесточить экспозицию банков по отношению к нефтяным компаниям или связанным с нефтью отраслям и учитывать, соответственно, валютный риск. The next question from Professor Sviatov. You asked me about the Dutch disease and the Ricardian curse. Do we have symptoms or do we have already the disease? We have, I can say that we have symptoms still, because if we will be ill or we will be sick with these very diseases, it will be really another and poor situation. So as for now, it's really, we can minimize these very symptoms in order to have a really good financial situation. And if there is interconnection between them, basically, a lot of people mix up Dutch disease and the Ricardian curse. However, they do not interrelate it with each other, because Dutch disease, it's about currency appreciation. So what does it mean? It means, for example, if oil price starts to increase, this country starts to be not so competitive on the foreign market. So it will lead to the currency, to the short run, in the short run, to currency appreciation. However, in the long run, it leads to the declining in other sphere of production within the country. If we talk about the Ricardian curse, it is a little bit another effect when people start to overconsume, relying on future shares from oil revenues. And about the period, as my supervisor told, we have already published the paper in 2019 in Scopus database. So basically, this result, the part of these results are already published. And in our further research, yes, we will continue our study. Moreover, concerning the second model of the banking sector, we will also continue our research. It is still till 2020, and now we are upgrading this econometric model thanks to your comments. And I think that nearly we will publish also. And about the factors which should be paid attention on, I think that we should pay attention, first of all, on political changes, maybe on oil, which place does it take in our economy. Also, we need to pay attention on OPEC forecasts, because we should rely on OPEC forecasts for the further years, because we have already the time horizon that we calculated. Moreover, we can rely on the strategy from the also OPEC organizations that we are going to have zero oil, like till 2050, to refuse from oil, yeah, so electric cars and etc. So based on these very factors, we can rely on them to pay attention on them, and after all, we can also just kind of have a prediction of oil price volatility on our financial sector. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My question is, reasonable answer all the questions, or is someone who not satisfied with the answer? If not, thank you very much, Moldir. Let's move on to listening the feedback of the reviewers. The floor is given to Dr. PhD, Professor Fazulayev. Please.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me and to be a reviewer. It was really interesting work, and it's really showed that it has really good contribution to the outstanding and existing literature. And the only thing that I just have underlined, there are some tests that should be performed, like for further research, like to be more valid, to be more like interesting, like regarding the autocorrelation, multiple narrative. These are the issues that should be incorporated in the future research. But putting these things like into simple, like the result that you have obtained from the research and conducted, actually they go in line with the Ministry of Education rules that have been settled down so far. And from my own point of view, it is recommended that Молдір Мұқан, like she can apply for the committee for the award of the doctor and PhD in finance.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, you don't mind, let's listen to the second review, then the doctoral students will respond to the comments of the both reviewers. Yes, do you agree? Yes. Let me give the floor to the second reviewer, Dr. PhD, the one already we can buy this. Please.
Dear dissertation committee members and other colleagues, let me introduce my review as an official reviewer for the dissertation work of Молдір Мұқан. The full review I already provided to Molder. The topics of the dissertation corresponds to the goal of the Address Strategy Kazakhstan 2050. The contribution for the dissertation outcomes to the field of finance lies further extension of research in the area of the financial market in terms of oil price volatility. The work has a high level of independence, which is reflected in a number of qualitative and quantitative studies conducted by the authors using methods of mathematical modeling and econometric and statistical analysis. The author's recommendations are developed on the basis of study and previous scientific papers on the current problems faced by oil exporting countries, in particular, such as the Republic of Kazakhstan. The author substantiates the relevance of the dissertation work. Nowadays, oil is considered as a black gold, and a lot of countries economically depends on these resources. This is a problem for the most of countries all over the world, and the topic is really relevant. The topic of the doctoral dissertation is disclosed in the content of the work. The author makes deep literature review, identifies proxy variables for the banking sector as NLP. Then the author makes an analytical research and identifies the dependence of the financial markets from the oil prices separately. The goal and objectives of the dissertation research are clearly formulated by the author. The dissertation research is aimed to the developing recommendations that contribute to the maintenance of the sustainable policies aimed at minimizing the symptoms of Dutch disease and regarding course and the adoption of the macroprudential policies. To achieve this goal, the several objectives were identified. The dissertation work is based on logically related theoretical and practical propositions that allow the author to achieve internal unity of the result. Peer-reviewed work has a clear logic of construction. The author consistently developed the main provisions of the dissertation in the context of the goal and objectives. The author applies different methodologies across the full study. As well, testing existing theories in the context of an oil exporting country and the process of looking for opportunity to expand such theories can be a valid approach for the dissertation. The scientific results and provisions are partially new. Such kind of the research was provided in this argument can be supported by the extended literature review provided by the author. However, such a study is being conducted in Kazakhstan for the first time. The previous work, the problem of the oil price dependence, was analyzed in a generous form. In this work, the author tries to analyze separate financial markets having different final results. It's well known fact that oil exporting country like Kazakhstan will strictly depend on oil prices. However, the author made this view a little different. The author identifies that the IS as a dependence, however, in a time framework, which is totally
Yes, because Ricardian curse already was studied in like 2 or 3 papers. We already read this literature, and we will try to differentiate. So this will be more productive for us. So once again, I extend my deepest gratitude to my reviewers for your expertise, for your commitment, and for your work. Thank you so much. Yes, because the Ricardian curse already was studied in like 2 or 3 papers. We already read this literature, and we will try to differentiate. So this will be more productive for us. So once again, I extend my deepest gratitude to my reviewers for your expertise, for your commitment, and for your work. Thank you so much.
As we agreed before, let's move on to the next procedure. It's open discussion. The members of dissertation council. Please, who wants to be first?
Comments on this?
Maybe comments, maybe additional explanation, or some maybe own view to this problem. Please don't hesitate. Be free. Your mother. Also, if possible, to use any language, Kazakh, Russian, English.
Молдір Мұқан Молдір Мұқанның бүгінгі диссертациялық жұмысын сәтті қорғауын жасаймын. Мен бұл жұмыстың сильный стороны бұл, жақсы жақтарына тоқталғым келеді. Молдір Мұқан Молдір Мұратқызы өзінің зерттеу жұмысында бірнеше әдістерді қолданған екен, гипотезаларын тестілеуде. Ол векторная авторегрессия бар и false әдісін қолданасыз. Сонымен қоса бұл жұмыстың жақсы жақтары ізденуші R, Stata, Grade сияқты бірнеше бағдарламаларды қолданып, өзінің гипотезаларын тестілеуге қолданған екен. Және жұмыстың тағы бір жалпы Молдірдің еңбектерінің ішінде мақалалардан басқа бұл кісі бір мақаланы жаңағыдай шетелдік кітаптың бір бөлімі ретінде жариялапты. Бұл деген автордың, яғни ізденушінің тек қана мақала жазумен ғана қоймай, сонымен қоса практикалық тәжірибесі бар және практикалық тәжірибеде қолданыла алатын жариялағанын айтады. Жалпы Молдірдің жұмысы өте жоғары деңгейде жазылған деп санаймын. Сондықтан ізденушінің қолдауға ұсыныс беремін.
Рахмет. Is there anyone else who wants to present?
Can I add a few words?
Yes, please.
So, first of all, thank you very much for all your valuable questions, colleagues. I just want to underline a few points, starting with the individual I have just written down. The first one of the questions, the test was raised by Professor Alexander Perevich about his assessment of current. Yes, in fact, Moldір has done it before. The thing is that in order to save space, in order to comply with the minimum regulations of the Ministry of Education, just include them into the chapter, okay? But we'll definitely work on this third chapter, and we will prepare a paper for the peer-reviewed journal. At least we are going to mention them in 10 seconds. That's it. And we had a problem with multiple method in the multiple regression analysis we always had. Our code was not very high, and it's also simple. And why auto-correlation was not necessary here to test, because the reason that in panel we have only 11 bits, which time bit is very short. And according to the time series econometricians, when time period at least is not 24 above, is not a good, not valid for this kind of multi-panel as and also, good question has been raised about Dutch disease and research depends by Saudi and also by Syrian meteorology. Of course, these are in fact policy questions. We can also consider them in our outcome of the third chapter. But in order to answer those questions, we will have to a little bit of course still modify our existing model in this third chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Who else? I would like to add some words. On the dissertation topic is very important, as mentioned, because very important for Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan economics reached more than 70% export of consists of oil. Moldір, in your dissertation, focused on the banking sector, which consists of approximately 90% of the whole financial sector, and the fluctuation of oil prices were on the financial banking sector as a maybe will be very interesting direction of future research, more focus on the different type of banks, because our banking sector consists of more than 20, approximately 28 banks. They are very different. Maybe 5 or 10 of them are systemically important banks, and I think the impact of fluctuation of oil prices is very different. It depends on the size or maybe importance of banks. Maybe in the future research, Moldір pay more attention to conduct research with this and the impact of different fluctuation oil prices on the different banks, different by size and by the type or structure of assets and so on. Sensitive analysis.
Yes, please. Dear committee members, I would like to have a few words as a co-supervisor of Moldір. Well, initially from the beginning, when I started to work with you, I really observed how she has been raised and had a good esteem of a good scholar. And I'm very happy to be supervisor of such a student. And she was really successful. The major aim, to get published the papers. That's the major aim of doctoral research, as I understand. And I'm very happy to lead her and supervise, and she was very successful in publishing, and recently P1 journal as well. Mutual policy as far as I remember. And as a scholar, I agree with as many of you did that she really deserves to have a doctoral degree. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Uskimbayev.
Somebody raised a question.
One of our temporary members, Professor Stepanenkova from University of Lyon University, wants to please. Oksana Alexeyevna.
Thank you very much. I was surprised by this research because I read it several times, and each time when I read this research, I was surprised by the quality of this PhD thesis, because econometric models which were used in this research are very good, and the research is conducted in a contemporary way, because all other researchers which I read these days, they use only ordinary least square models. But Moldір used a very modern model. It is a pool square model. As for me, she is a very qualified PhD student, and the grade and the readiness and the status of her work is very high, because she is a good researcher, she is a good scientist, and I would like to make a proposal that she would write very interesting scopus articles according to this research, because this research is very good for these days, and it's very actual. Yes, the problem of the high volatility of oil prices, it is not the problem of one country, it is a world problem, and this research is very good, and it may be very useful for different countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oksana Alexeyevna. Is there anyone who wants to present some words? No? If not, the floor is given to the Moldir for final word.
Thanks for your all for your participation. Today's dissertation
defense. First of all, I would like to thank my dear supervisors who made a really great contribution in my work. Firstly, my work was started with Professor Yesingali Uskimbayev, and then it was continued with Isabayev Murat Muratovich. Thank you so much. Thank you for my reviewers that you made a really great contribution in reading and reviewing my research. Thank you for the doctoral department for your support for several years, for 5 years. Thank you for dissertation council members that you participate here today. So thanks for your valuable time that you invested.
Thank you. We are now move on to the very important part of the presentation, to the voting process. As you know, the voting process, in accordance with the current regulations, should be secret. Just remind you the procedure. A voting form will be sent to your email address, to your email box. As you can see, there are 4 options. You have to choose only one of the 4 options presented. They are: first, apply or worth a PhD degree. Second option, send the thesis for revision. Third option, submit dissertation for re-defense. And last one, refuse to award a PhD degree. I ask you to start in the process and be carefully and choose only one of four options, please. Come stay. I want to remind you of the quorum. 6 members of temporary composition of dissertation council, 6 members of permanent composition of dissertation council, and plus 2 reviewers. Reviewers also participate in the working process. And all together would be 14 votes.
Уважаемые коллеги, извиняюсь, я имейл не получил еще. Нургобдешев Асылбек, имейла нету.
Сейчас придет.
Сейчас отправляется.
Список есть его имя. Что, свидетель будет главный. Кто хочет собирать? Кончились. Кончились. Он тут полугодовой. Что, разве кончились, да? Что он будет сам?
А субъект вам пришел?
Нет, еще не получил.
Да.
We received 9. Okay. Форма закрыта, говорят. Ну? Нет.
Получил, проголосовал.
Спасибо. Кому-то не попало, дальше не пришло.
Right now, 12 out of 14. Or that's 13. Светлана Круглова. Где два? Where are two words? Dear colleagues, it takes time. Please wait for 30 out of 40. Результат. Нет, это проголосовал.
Нет, это победитель. Достоин степени. И 7,7 контроль на дороге.
Сколько?
7,7. Хорошо.
We, dear colleagues, we are faced with a problem with the internet connection because one of the temporary members right now in China, some problem with internet connection. With maybe in 5 minutes, he will be able to participate in voting process. Это еще проблема сложная.
Не получили, не получили. Сейчас спам на характер делается.
Подожди, вот, реально возможность есть получить. У вас нет есть.
13.
Он надо будет без 13. Он просто новым годом. Алишер, отправил у нас что так долго так? Он не может.
Человека проблемы с интернетом.
Просто гостиница лежат. После этого если он массажирует, вы мне скажите, я членам скажу, что сейчас какой ситуация.
Он находится в Китае, там связь очень плохая.
Нет, сейчас. Получили?
Да, получили. Вот последний.
One of the temporary member, which right now in China, just received the form for voting. Maybe it takes 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, we will receive result.
Hello everyone. I'm sorry to keep wait to all you. There's a problem with me for internet as Gmail doesn't work here in China. I'm not receiving any email, but I want to vote by saying online. I would like to congratulate an outstanding thesis defense presentation to her. It was evident that she dedicated a significant amount of her time and effort to her research, and her hard work truly she paid. The argument presented were well supported and effectively conveyed, showcasing her a deep understanding of the subject matter. Additionally, the comprehensive literature review demonstrated a thorough examination of her relevant sources and established a strong foundation for her research. The clarity which she presented her findings and established a strong foundation for her research. The clarity with which she presented the originality and the significance of her work are commendable, and it is clear that she has made a valuable contribution on her field. Overall, I am thoroughly impressed by her presentation, and I would wholeheartedly support this thesis. Thanks to all for waiting, I would say in a yes.
Это он не может рассказать?
Может быть, это тогда каким образом технически это мы сделаем? Он голосует за это. Его прослушали. Он сказал, что выбирать. Может, запись есть, да?
Запись есть же, да? Да, есть.
Есть. Ну, это будет открытый, да? Давайте с учетом того, что последний голосует. Алия Межден, последний голосовал за первую. С учетом этого, дайте мне язык. Совсем плохо слышно. Обязательно сохраните запись того, что он сказал. Критично, вот его голос нет. Вот здесь. Не критично. До этого просто стопроцентная presence.
100% и 100% 3/4 это 75.
Волдемар? Время что? Let's sum up the results of the secret voting. There were 14 people, 14 people participate in the secret voting, including the permanent members of the dissertation council in the amount of 6 people. The temporary members of the dissertation council were present in full, consisting of 6 people. Official review are in full force 2 people. According to the result of the secret voting, we have the following. Apply first option for the award the degree of doctor of philosophy. 13 people send to the dissertation for revision 0, submit the dissertation for defense 0, and refuse to award the degree of doctor of philosophy 1. Based on the result of the dissertation council at Moscow University, the dissertation council recommends the Committee for Quality Assurance in Science and Higher Education of the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of the Republic of Kazakhstan to award the degree of Doctor of Philosophy Молдір Мұқан in the specialty Finance. On behalf of the dissertation council, I congratulate scientific supervisor, domestic and foreign, Professor Marat Isabayev and Mehmet Orhan, and of course, PhD candidate Молдір Мұқан with a successful defense. Our congratulations for that. And we have a final step. Yes, in accordance with the regulation, we should approve the result of voting with open voting, just for raising hands, show hands. Who approves the results of voting of secret voting, please. Who for? Please show your hands. Against? No. And abstain on voting? No. The decision made unanimously. And final step, you all have a project conclusion. Draft the conclusion was sent to your email boxes. Do you have any comments, additions to the draft of conclusion of dissertation council? If not, I propose to the scientific secretary elaborate the draft conclusion with the scientific supervisors and doctoral students, taking into account all the comments of the member of this council. Are you agree with this proposal? It's no objection. Yes. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your time. I wish everyone good luck and all the best. Now the meeting of the dissertation council is closed. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Это записи старые, да? Any questions? Advice and recommendations?